Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Thrive, part of our special series live from the AI CPA Engage show in Las Vegas. I'm joined by the modern savvy CPA herself, Sharon Parmeshwar. Sharon is not only the personal financial specialist, but also the host of a popular podcast called Get Wealthy With Me. In this episode, you'll hear her thoughts on how mindset and motivation shape our financial decisions and why intentional money management matters. She offers also us a glimpse into her experience at the Engage conference, so let's get into it.
Welcome to Thrive, a Paychex business podcast, your blueprint for navigating everything from people to policies to profits. And now, your host, Gene Marks.
So Sharon, first of all, thank you very much for joining. Glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So first of all, why are you here at Engage?
Well, I'm a CPA, not a pocket protector plus suit, if you can see.
Yeah.
So abnormal, out of the norm CPA, but coming here and being with my community and understanding and keeping up with technology and all the different things is one of the reasons I come.
That is great. Yeah, a lot of people come here for like CPE credit as well, because it's a really good place to do that. That too, like definitely helps. And then a lot. So you are still a CPA, and are you a practicing CPA? Do you have a
I am winding down my tax business.
Got it.
So I'm a CPA PFS.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Tell me.
So a PFS is one of the designations that we have within, because just like medicine, right? You have the CPA, which is like the MD, and then we have all the different concentrations.
Right.
So the PFS is Personal Financial Planner, which is like a CFP,
right?
But only CPAs can have that.
Right. What's the S stand for?
For
Personal financial
specialist.
Oh, I got you. So is that a special? Is that like a different certification? And do you have to? And do you have to keep CPE for that as well?
Yes, you do. Yes.
Got it. What is CPE in Florida now? Is it like in Pennsylvania? For us, it's like 80 credits every 2-year period of time, and it includes like 4 ethics credits as well. I always cheat on the ethics part. You know, I'm just kidding. I don't. But
don't say that on media.
But it is it's like a pain in the neck for me to do because I don't do auditing or tax anymore.
Yeah.
But it is I still appreciate it and I still enjoy it. I mean, I still learn when I take a lot of these classes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Have you been to any sessions here?
I go to all the
Well, you can't go to all because there's like a million.
Yeah, I fill my agenda
and
I pick the stuff that I do. My CPA practice is a tax practice.
Okay. But
I do a lot of planning, so that's why the PFS comes in handy.
Got it.
Because the PFS looks at a person as their whole.
Sure.
It's actually more of a quarterback of a person's whole financial life.
Got it.
So,
okay. And are there PFS specific classes here at the? Okay.
Yes, we have each concentration have different classes.
It's good.
So it's PFP classes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's very cool. So you started a podcast.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
2.
Okay. Tell me about the podcast.
So my first podcast was originally under my company's name, which is the Modern Savvy CPA. It was super educational. I tried to just go. I used a teleprompter then, which my producer absolutely hated.
Okay.
And it was literally A to Z on how to work things and how, personal finance. I had a couple of guests, but not a lot.
Okay.
It was mainly me.
So it's you talking and giving advice, I guess, right? And sharing information.
Kind of going through what it is. I believe in, I'm a big on financial behavior. So behavioral finance is actually what I believe that's going to get us out of a lot of things.
Okay. What's behavioral finance? What does that mean?
Behavior finance is kind of like what is your mindset and your motivation. There's a couple of steps. So my teaching, and I have courses that I'm launching soon, is intentional money management. And there are 3 aspects of intentional money management. Your motivation, which are your goals.
Okay.
Your mindset, which is where you are currently and how we change that.
Okay.
So that's part that changes.
Right.
And then the mechanics.
Okay.
So what we do in the accounting world is the mechanics. But we tend to forget that we have to have motivation and we have to understand our mindset in order for the mechanics to work.
Got it. And is that podcast, is it targeted more towards your accountants or to individuals that want to have that sort of?
So my new podcast is called Get Wealthy With Me.
Okay.
And I have a guest every show, and the guests, everyone has a money story.
Right.
every single person,
Right.
just like how you have a health story,
Sure.
you have a money story. So we have different guests every week. That's we talk about their money story, their money journey. It's a financial behavioral thoughts and information through storytelling.
I love that. So are the guests just like regular people that are willing to share their personal finances with you, or are they more like specialists?
They are not really specialists. They have their career which they're specialized in.
Okay.
They're not specialized in specific finance.
Okay.
So, for example, I had a former hedge fund manager
Okay.
on that we talked about that. My last guest, I believe a couple of weeks ago, he was from the Funky Bunch, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch,
Okay.
DJ Newmark.
Okay.
So he talked about the entertainment world.
Got it.
And what they did and what they didn't do and what things that young entrepreneurs with entertainment should. So it's kind of everybody's money story, how you come back to it.
You know, it's funny. I go on Instagram. I don't post anything on Instagram, but I'm on it a lot. I follow a bunch of highly inappropriate accounts that my sons have recommended to me, and I laugh a lot at it. It's really great. But like, I love following stories on Instagram of like people's lives. You know, I'm like obsessed with that. You know, like what they do for a living, or following them around for a day. And I'm also obsessed with like there's one Instagram person in Philadelphia where I'm from who asks people like what they make. So they interview people on the street, and they'll be like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a research scientist at Penn, or I'm a marketing manager at DuPont, or whatever." And they're willing to share like what they earn,
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating, and I only feel like it's like tipping the. You're only like just scratching the surface.
Right.
Like it's kind of like I want to know, like, okay, you're making $75,000 a year as a marketing manager at DuPont. I want to know more about their personal finances and what they do, like their money story.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Are you making it on that? Are you able to save any money?
Right.
Are you, how much is your mortgage? What do you spend on food? I feel like on Instagram, there's like a trend of knowing more people's lives, their intimate lives. Like, I feel like you're onto something. I think like your podcast, if you're willing to get a guest on that's willing to divulge, and that's easier said than done, their personal finances, and then you as an expert can be talking to them and saying, oh, well, you might want to consider this, you might want to consider that. If that's the road that you're going down as you're talking to people, I think you're onto something. I think it's a great idea. I really do.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I will talk to whoever listens to me because I believe, as in my CPA life, I was never really like the tax CPA. I was a tax, but I didn't just prepare.
Sure.
I did a lot of strategies and planning, and I knew that I was looking for something else. I was looking for to help people in another way.
Yeah.
And with the behavioral finance, you realize that like even with my clients that I had, mainly business clients, right? I never talked to them about their revenue because they went into that business for a reason.
Sure.
They're good at what they did.
Sure.
They understand what it is that they're doing. I talk to them between the revenue and the net income.
I understand. Like how they're spending their money, you're saying, right? Yeah.
What are you doing with your money? Are you being intentional about
100%.
it? Like there's so much waste that we do between those lines. So I'm not going to tell you how to make your initial. I mean, we'll talk about investments and stuff, but your sweat, that's your sweat.
When I was younger, there was a guy that had a radio show. His name was Sid Marks, and actually, maybe it was Harry Marks. But anyway, he had a radio show. People would call him up with their personal financial stuff. Like, oh, I make this amount of money and I want to put money away for college, or I've got thinking of buying a house, what do I do? That kind of thing. The guy was like amazing at it, and it was a super popular show in Philadelphia at the time because people like to hear about other people's stories, their financial stories, And I look around like at this show, like all around us, there are people here, there are CPAs, there are many non-CPAs. They've all got their own finances.
They have a money story.
And they don't. And trust me, they don't know anymore.
And they're messing it up too.
Yeah, they're messing. We're all messing it up in our own ways.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we think we know, no matter how smart you are about it, you're still learning every day.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Like I have a shoe habit.
Yeah, fair enough. Which, by the way,
we have shoe habits.
That's ridiculous, but that's okay.
We live
everybody
in Florida.
has a,
We have open-toed shoes all the time, and like I know I have a shoe habit. So understanding your mindset. is important. I'm not asking you to be perfect.
Yeah.
I just want to know where your mindset is and what your goals are.
Yeah.
So if you want to get here, this is what we need to do to this.
Right.
You know?
I got you.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. You talk about having a shoe habit. No judgment here, although I'm judging. Just I'm not admitting it publicly.
He's judging.
Right. But if you have a shoe habit and you can manage your finances a way to afford that habit, then good for you. Good for you.
I managed the shoe habit
Yeah,
too.
fair enough. I have a habit of spending a lot of money on like baseball games, in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're managed, you can navigate your way around it. That's good. But I do think that people like to hear that story.
Yes,
I think it's cool.
we all have things
Right.
that we struggle with.
Yep.
Because it's a journey. It's like eating. When you're eating, your eating habits. If you're going to eat something that's like the desserts that's coming out right now,
Yeah.
if we're going to have some of this, we're going to have to be good later.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to balance it off.
Okay.
It's not so one of the things that I preach about all the time on my podcast is the mentality. I don't believe in the deprivation mentality, which are the baby boomers. And I don't believe in the instant gratification mentality, which are the alphas and the Gen Zs.
Sure.
You have to have a moderation mentality
Right.
in finance for it to be successful,
Makes
for you
sense.
to be successful. So
What's the name of the podcast?
Get Wealthy with Me.
And you can hear it, I guess, on all the major
you
podcast
can see
platforms.
it on YouTube.
You are doing
on,
YouTube. Good.
We have it on Apple, Spotify, everything
Good.
that you can think about.
Good. I'm really
So-
glad to hear that. Okay. So you've been in the profession for a while. You've met, I'm sure, plenty of CPAs. Let me ask you a few questions about the profession itself. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, okay?
Okay.
For starters, in your own business as a financial professional, what technologies do you use? And what are your thoughts on AI, where things are going as a CPA? Do you think I'll be blunt. All the advice that you're giving on your podcast, why can't I just ask ChatGPT?
Yep, you can, but will you?
Will I is right. So do you use any of this stuff? And do you have any fears of this stuff or concerns?
I embrace the future with optimism.
Good.
So within the profession, when I was just being a concierge CPA raising my kids before I started coming out a little bit with this, I was very I thought I was doing well with technology, but not really, because I wasn't out in the community learning what was out there.
Right.
When I started coming out and seeing how much more technology can help me
Sure.
organize myself and do the mundane task, it was like an eye-opener.
What technology do you use?
So what softwares do I use?
Yeah, like what kind of apps or softwares? Like what do you lean on during the day? I've already divulged that I use Instagram a lot, although it provides no business value at all, but it does make me laugh. I was just kind of curious, like what do you have on your phone? What do
I
you
have a
use
lot
at
of
work?
things on my phone. I do for my business specific. I use QuickBooks a lot.
Good.
Because clients use QuickBooks. I use TaxDome.
Good.
I do refer all my payroll to Paychex. I don't do any payroll.
Okay.
They're one of my favorite payroll companies.
Good.
There is another one, but that's a favorite. I won't mention it. And they're not paying me to say this, by the way. I have a CRM system called TaxDome.
Okay.
I use ATX for my tax software.
Good.
Microsoft, the whole Microsoft.
So you use a
Teams.
lot of applications.
Yes.
Okay. Another issue facing the accounting profession is just talent, and you see
Yep.
it yourself. First of all, how did you get into becoming a CPA? I'm curious. Did you have any family members that did it? Like, what attracted you to the profession?
Most of my family members are in the medical profession.
Okay.
But my dad, I used to sit with him at the table when I was younger and help him balance his checkbook. And I grew up with two sisters, so we all had our own thing. One sister liked to fix stuff, and the other sister just liked to get in trouble.
Right.
And I like to cook and pay the bills.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And I knew
That
I was
led you into the financial
I'm
realm.
a math person.
I see.
Yeah. So that's what led me into. So I thought I wanted to do computer science, and then accounting was my thing. I went and got the CPA, and then I worked in corporate. I worked in public accounting, and then I went out on my own when the kids. When I started,
Sure.
the restrictions for the profession was 2 decades ago. Was a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for a woman with kids,
Yeah.
it was
Almost
a different
insurmountable.
thing. Yeah.
Right.
So then the PFS part of it is actually where I found that was something I was doing all these things already, but now I have a name for what I was doing, because I'm not a tax preparer. And now I'm winding down my tax business and going more into education because I think that we have some issues. We have a pipeline issue, but like our keynote speaker said, it's not just a pipeline issue for accounting. The baby boomers, there's 30% of CPAs are baby boomers and they're all retiring. But the baby boomers was a large generation and the millennials are not going to make up for that. They're not even having enough babies to make up for it. So it's not a pipeline issue alone with accounting. It's a pipeline issue for the workforce. And I don't think that's being concentrated on enough on that. And we're not filling that. We're in our colleges just in general. We're not telling people what our needs are. We have a mismatch in Florida. We have a mismatch. We just did a seminar. I just did a seminar with the chamber. We have 100 jobs for every 90 people that needs a job. But the problem is not that. The problem is only 40 of these people are qualified for these 100 jobs.
Right, I see.
So the mismatch there is, and it's going to continue.
How do you fix it in the accounting profession? Like what needs to be done?
Proactive, going out and letting people know about the profession. It is not a hard profession. It is basic mathematics.
I agree.
You just need one calculus class. You know.
I do know. And it's funny you say that because my son's a mechanical engineer and he designs like data centers. And sometimes I see him with the plans that he's using.
His math is a lot harder than ours.
Oh my God, right? I mean, people that build bridges and buildings, I mean, that is complicated math. I totally agree that like the accounting profession, it's not that hard to learn accounting. But you do have to have a certain aptitude and enjoyment of numbers. And once you have that sort of financial literacy, I mean, it opens up so many doors being a CPA, don't you think?
I think so. And on top of that, you don't have to go to a gazillion years of school.
1,000%. 1,000%.
And you don't have to, there's so many different concentrations. You can be an auditor. I'm not going to be an auditor to save my life.
Fair enough.
You can do cyber accounting. You can do
I know CPAs are in marketing.
Accounting.
I know CPAs are in sales. I mean, if
there's so many different concentrations that it's not that boring. You know, auditing is boring for me, but it might be exciting for somebody else.
So what you're saying is that the profession just needs to talk about that more, tell that story a little bit better.
We need better marketing. We need the good old guys, no offense to the good old guys. That club is like very hard to infiltrate. I'm trying.
Agreed.
But I'm getting a lot of pushback.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, some of the hopes I have is that like as the older generation retires or moves on and younger generations take over, there'll be that much more energy and that much more focus on attracting more people as well. I think we're starting to see that, but it's definitely an issue. All right. One final question. I'll let you go. You work with other CPAs, other CPA firms. I mean, you've known people how long have you been a CPA now?
I've been in the accounting profession for 3 decades.
Okay.
I didn't get my CPA until like 5 years in.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so you've met a lot of accountants.
Yes.
Tell me, like, what accountants impress you? Like when you meet certain accountants or certain accounting firms and you think to yourself like, these guys know what it's all about or they are doing a great job, you know, or like that's the kind of firm that is going to be around for a while, you know? What kind of characteristics do you think those people have that really just impress you?
So it has changed through the decades, right? Okay. So what's impressing me now is more towards behavioral finance, right? So the accounting way of doing things in a box and the numbers, like you said, you can ask ChatGPT for certain things.
You can.
The numbers are something that I think you can ask for, so we have to think differently about our profession now. It's our behavior, our energy, our positivity.
True.
Moving forward with technology, we did not touch that.
Right.
But moving forward with technology, I totally believe anything, if used good, can work. AI is amazing. I am an accountant, not a writer. So writing emails and writing letters and writing all these memos used to take me a long time because so AI helps me with that. I mean, it doesn't take me. I use it as a tool. I don't have it work for me.
Sure.
You know, I change so many things around. I don't like a lot of things that it says, so I move it. But it helps me organize. It saves me time. So embracing all of that is that the form of the future.
Right.
Yeah, and more communication.
Right.
So every generation wants to know what they want to be involved. Just like medicine, it used to be take 2 of this pill and call me in the morning. We don't know what we took. We don't know what we have. We don't have any. In accounting, it's the same thing.
It is.
You have to. Everybody wants to know, what are they investing in? Why are they investing in?
Sure.
Why are you telling me to do this? Why are you telling me to do that? So the communication between what's happening is so important.
Sure.
And accountants are not used to doing that, so that's our issue.
And it's funny too, because I've always felt that the old school of accountants, and listen, no offense on them, and this is the way they were brought up and the way the generation was, just weren't the greatest communicators in the world.
Absolutely
And
not.
You just said it. It's like you need to learn about the person. You have to have bedside manner.
Bedside manner.
And there was a lot of stories behind people's finances and companies' finances.
Their mindset.
And a lot of people growing up in the profession weren't taught to do that.
No.
I think younger generations get that.
They get that. They want their purpose. That's the thing about our pipeline issue too, is if you explain to them why they have a purpose,
sure,
you will get much more productive employees
sure,
when they have a purpose.
Sure.
It's not just a job anymore that you do. It has to have a purpose.
Great. Sharon, it was great talking with you. Thank you so much. I want to wish you best of luck with the podcast. I will definitely subscribe to it.
Definitely subscribe, and hopefully you can comment.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Really appreciate it. Do you have a topic or a guest that you would like to hear on Thrive? Please let us know. Visit payx.me/Thrive Topics and send us your ideas or matters of interest. Also, if your business is looking to simplify your HR, payroll, benefits, or insurance services, see how Paychex can help. Visit the resource hub at paychex.com/works. That's WORX. Paychex can help manage those complexities while you focus on all the ways you want your business to thrive. I'm your host, Gene Marks, and thanks for joining us. Till next time, take care.
This podcast is property of Paychex Incorporated 2025, all rights reserved.